So damn, what an episode this was. This is the Southern Raiders, and this is the one where Zuko is taking Katara to find the person, not just the tribe, not the army, but the person who killed her mother. As we know, she's carried a lot of anger and pain over this, even more than Sokka. And man, what a lot going on here. A lot of emotional weight that is extremely difficult to convey in, whatever, 24, 23 minutes. And they do it quite well. There's one or two moments where it felt maybe a touch rushed, or like, oh, maybe you could have waited, half a minute longer on this, but you only have so much time. You have this time limit. I totally get it. I'm impressed they got done what they got done, and they got the emotional impact that they needed. It's also a very good episode for the, I don't know her name, oh no. I'm gonna look it up. Mae Whitman, that's her name. Hopefully I'm saying that one right. Anytime there's like, I really want to give credit to someone that give a really good dramatic performance, I want to say the name. So Mae Whitman, I believe I'm saying that right, is the actor's name, the person who plays Katara. And what really struck me about the performance here is that the strongest moments seem to be the very quiet, the very short moments. Like I think the one that hit me the strongest was when she tells the story about what happened to her mother, and when Zuko is listening to it, he says, "Your mother was a brave woman," and she just says, "I know." And just the way she said those two words, so effective. And there's a lot of moments like that where maybe it's just a short sentence, or even like a breath or something like that. And they hit the perfect spots. I mean, they were so effective. They're not the generic, sort of wobbly voice, "I know," or the strong, "I know," or something like that. I mean, it was just the right medium. So just big kudos to her on this performance. I mean, I really think she nailed it. And the interesting thing about this, you got, or what's the arm moment? The arm moment that really, I mean, you just sort of step back and go, holy shit, is when Sokka is saying, she's about to take off, and Sokka is saying, look, you shouldn't let this really consume you. This is bad. I mean, she was my mother too, and she says something along the lines of, then you didn't love her as much. I mean, just like, holy shit, like that, family picture. It's like, holy shit. I mean, this is heavy stuff, and it's done so well, and it all comes together. The return of the bloodbending. As soon as she saw the guy that she thinks is the killer and starts doing the bloodbending again, I just went, holy shit. So many moments in this episode where I just was saying that over and over, holy shit, holy shit. And it has the build-up for it. We've known throughout these episodes the build-up for it. So where this episode starts off as her wanting to trust Zuko, it transforms into something else. I mean, it's supposed to, at the start, it's supposed to be about Zuko's redemption in her eyes, but it turns into something else, and it flows into that so beautifully and so perfectly. And it's just, very nicely done. I say the other interesting thing, I said that before, I say that a lot. The other interesting thing, when she confronts the killer, and you kind of know she's not going to do it. In fact, you very much know she's not going to do it. But you don't quite know why. And originally I thought maybe he was going to have transformed into a nice guy, maybe, or a quiet guy or something like that, and she couldn't do it. I like they sort of went the other route, where he was very pathetic, and he was, take my mother instead. But he wasn't, I mean, he was like, as she said, there was nothing there, but it wasn't in a sense that, like, he's so evil, he's so mean and cool and stuff. He's just this pathetic thing. And he had this power, and now it's gone, and he discovers that that wasn't what he should have been working on. He should have been working on what the rest of the characters are working on. They were working on himself. And it's fascinating that she could not still forgive him. And that's an interesting area to leave off. That, sort of in the perfect kids' world lesson story thing, they will whatever that is I just said, that she would forgive him. And she forgives Zuko, which is great, but she doesn't kill the guy, but she cannot forgive him. And that's a very, again, that's probably good to leave in there, because you take a long time to develop these characters, and she crosses one hurdle, and the hurdle is not killing him, not getting revenge, essentially. But the other hurdle, the major one, she can't, and it's very possible she never will. And that's just one of life's truths. It's a tough truth, and you try to fight against it as much as you can, but it can be one of those truths. It can just be that way. So I'm glad this show does have the balls to say, hey, this can happen. There can sometimes be no forgiveness, and we're not saying it's right, but sometimes it's just gonna happen. And I think people who go through anything like what this character has gone through will probably identify, and I don't think they're saying it's right, but I think the show is trying to say that it understands it, it gets it, and that it's not an easy transition. Especially in one episode. I get the feeling she did forgive him in one episode. It might be a little too rushed, a little too, roll the happy music and the end credits, and no, it's not quite that easy. So I really like that they did that. That was, a very gutsy choice there. And the ending here, too, with Zuko, again, I'm not entirely sure how this is going to end, but the ending with Zuko telling Aang, if you believe violence is never the answer, what are you going to do with my father, and leaving it there. Very good area to stop. I'm one of those people who, whether you be surprised or not, I'm one of those people who does not believe violence is never the answer. But with that said, don't get in your mind that I think it's always the answer, or majority of the time the answer. I don't think it is. I do not like violence. I think violence is the act somebody makes when they cannot find a non-violent route to take. Either they're not strong enough or they're not smart enough. And, I think we're all guilty of that at some point, whether we're children or adults or whatever. But saying violence is never the answer is like in the other extreme. I think majority of time there's going to be exceptions to the rule. World War II, violence is never the answer. Well, with that kind of saved the day for the world, fighting back. There's self-defense. There's people who are going to try it, and sometimes you have to find, the best way around it. And it is going to be that in order to save yourself, self-preservation. So I like the fact that they're addressing that we have this very difficult ground, this very difficult subject we're going to come up to, is that for a kid who constantly uses violence too, I sort of was thrown off a bit when he's like, violence is never the answer. I'm like, show all the big-ass action sequences. Just because you haven't killed anybody technically doesn't mean that, you haven't really hurt people or injured them, or even during some of the big battles where he's fighting the ships, they all got out okay? I mean, I don't know. But self-defense, I understand. And again, I agree with the idea that it should only be done, it's like war, it should only be done if there's no other option, if the only reason you do it is to get to a point where you don't have to do it. The same thing with violence. The only reason you would do violence is get to a point where you don't have to have violence. Self-defense, essentially. So I really don't know what they're going to do in order for him to fight the Fire Lord. It's like a big question mark for me. It's like, I really don't know. Now that they've introduced this, that Aang is really asking himself, well, wait, if I believe this philosophy, how can I do this? I'm really curious. I don't know if he's gonna appease to his humanity, or if he's gonna find some way to entrap him. I can't see entrapping. It probably needs more closure, but I don't know. In a way that will also get closure for the show, or find a way where he forgives him and lets him go, but then the Fire King does himself in, or maybe Zuko kills him. I don't know. I don't know. I'm very fascinated to find out now that they've introduced this. So, yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Good. Only other thing I can think of is really good funny moment from Sokka in the opening when Suki's trying to sneak in, and then Zuko goes in instead, and he has a rose in his mouth. That as another make me laugh hard scene. And also a strong opening with they're just lying down, they're all happy and stuff. All of a sudden, just a bomb flies up. Ships are coming. It's just a big friggin' action scene. And it's a really good action scene with Azula on the ship and them having that great big fight. Again, another great delivery with from Dante Bosco when he sees her falling, and he just says this line: "She's not gonna make it." And it's just such a confused emotion he's getting out. It's both this, wow, this could be the end of our problems, but also I'm losing my sister. Like, just not knowing how to say that line, how to express it. And then, of course, when she's saved, and of course she makes it. I mean, which is just great delivery and a great line, too. So, a very strong episode, a very difficult episode to pull off in the time frame. Like I said, maybe one or two times I wish they could have gone longer, but they can't. I mean, they just can't, and it's a shame, but you gotta work within your limitations, and for these limitations, they do an unbelievably good job. So, again, a big respect to the voice actors in this one, and the writing, just very, very nicely done, and just very, very well balanced. So, yeah, that's about it. I will see you next vlog.